I'll be teeing you guys up to be lockstep in this dovetail through, okay? We'll do the same. So dovetail's got quite a nasty reputation of being quite tricky, but I'll show you by just following some simple strategies we can get a nice tight fit. So we're doing a dovetail on this piece, and essentially it's similar to the cross halving you're doing, or we've done, but it's just a cross half dovetail, okay? So I'm going to get a sharp pencil happen, guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put it in that T section. Matty, you're right to follow, or you?
Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to put it in that T section. And all I'm going to pick off is just a little mark there. So make sure it's level down that side. I'm just going to pick off a little mark there. That's all we need. Just that one mark. So once you've got that mark, then we can square that across. We can just square that across the face. And then I'm just going to square it down two edges to just over halfway. That's as much as we need to do. So I could scratch around for a sample of this, guys, and I might do once we've gone through it, just so you know where you're heading. So what we do is we create the dovetail shape, and then whatever shape we create, we literally draw around on the other piece. So it doesn't matter if you go off the lines. So that's the principles behind creating these dovetail joints. So you produce the shape. It doesn't matter if you go off the lines, because we just draw around whatever you create. Okay? So the next thing we're going to do, guys, is going to set up the marking gauge to halfway. So you remember that cheeky trick where you can just set it up roughly. Come from both sides and see if that mark sits in. Cut off, guys. We're going to just mark down to that line there halfway. So I've put a point at the end to stop the marking gauge travelling down. It hits into that spot and bring our pencil line off. So make sure you gauge from the same side, just if there is any discrepancy in it. I'm just gauging across that end grain. So that back section, guys, is what we're going to cut away first. So it should look something like that. Guys, so I'm just going to continue and I'll just pull up here because we probably need to, and I've just realised we need to bring these lines around across that edge there on both sides, and we're just going to bring them a little bit away, just a little bit over on that one side. You don't need to come all the way, we just need to pull a line just on that opposite face, just a little bit over. Not sure how how square my square is. This opposite side now, guys, I'm going to mark out the dovetail. So at the bottom of the line, I'm going to come over 10 millimeters and just put a little mark. Come over 10 millimeters on the other side and just put a little mark. So 10 millimeters at the bottom, and then on the top, right on the end of the material, I'm going to come over 5 millimeters. So at the bottom one it's over 10, and then right at the end of the material, just bring your ruler in or whatever you're using, and I'm just going to put a little mark at 5 mil. So once you've marked those 5 mil, we're just going to join those lines together, and that's going to create your dovetail taper or your dovetail angle. So that's what it looks like, guys. So on the end grain, guys, all I'm going to do is just put a little mark where it appears. Same on that side. And then we're going to square those lines across. So when you square those lines across, you'll find that the square doesn't sit very well on there. So you've got to try and get it sitting as stable as you can and just square that line as best you can across that end grain from that point. So where you've got the 5 mil line, we're just going to square that across. Yeah, that's okay, you're okay. Come in 5 mil from there. What you see on. So we're going to mark out 2 joints, guys, here, and that's the first stage. So have a look, reference my sample, and I'll just grab your other little sticks. Give you 2 contrasting tippets just for you to work with. Matt.
Okay.
Creative. Where you're going is it's going to be intersecting on that piece, but we don't mark that shape on until we cut this out, okay? Because you're relying on, if we mark both of them, we're relying on 2 separate markings, and we want to get a good fit. So it doesn't matter if they're not perfectly aligned. So that's as far as you want to go on that one.
What was it again?
Half lap dovetail. Yeah, take that. Take that. These boys are cutting loose this week. Okay. Pop out, guys. There's yours. Is a T-shaped bridle. Okay, so put it in a T-shape. And you can even it out if you like to get it central.
And it doesn't matter which ones.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So all we're going to do, guys, is just with the pencil mark, we're just going to pick off just the width of that material. So just on that edge, we're just going to mark the width of the material. So we could do all this marking with a ruler, do you know what I mean? Measure the width and then, but it's better to fit exactly to what we're, you know, the piece that we're trying to fit. So put that on there. So then you're going to square those lines. You could probably square both of those lines all the way around the face, the 2 faces. and down the edges as well. Make sure those squares are nice and tight to the edge so you get a nice square line. If this material is nice and square, your lines should all meet up sweetly. So the darker timber, guys, I think is Pacific mahogany, and the whiter one is pine. You okay, dear? That T section again. But this time I'm going to put it over the top and bring it level on the other side. So it's nice and level on the other side. And we're just going to pick off that mark at the front and the other mark at the back. Well, actually one mark will do it, guys. Yeah, one mark will do it. You just need just one mark on there. That's right, yeah, that's it. So once you've got that little mark on, guys, you can square that one all the way around, the same as the other one. Have an example, guys, of a corner bridle. So that's the corner bridle in there. We're doing a T section, so we'll do the T1 first because it's generally a bit easier, and then we'll drop onto this one. So once you've got those lines squared around, we're going to set up a marking gauge. Okay, now the piece that we leave in the middle there, both on this one, both on this T section one and on this corner one, we have to do it to match the chisel width, okay? Because our chisel sits nice and snug in there. So it's 6 millimeters, okay? So if we've got the thickness of this material, so it works out quite nicely, hopefully. So it's 18 mil minus the 6 millimeters divided by 2. And that will be our marking gauge setup. So 18 minus 6, 12, divided by 2. So your marking gauge should be around 6 millimeters. So what I want you to do is set it up to 6 mil, and then before we mark it, I want you to do a point from both faces to see if we've got 6 millimeters. So I'm going to go point there and a point there. So I've come from both sides there, Ryan, can you see that? And I'm just checking that chisel sits in there between my points. There. So mine's good, guys, so I'll send that 6 mil chisel around. Happy with it, guys. I'm going to mark between those two lines. So yeah, you can pretty much make marks on both of your pieces now if you've got it set up to 6 mil. So you can go between the lines on
Should we do it on both sides?
yeah, you can do it on both. Yeah, do it on both sides. That's the big resaw. Pardon? Let's see. So we can use that marking gauge, the same marking gauge we can use. So I'm just going to gauge all the way around, across the end grain. That's good. So what we've left on the one, we're going to take out of the other. So it's definitely useful marking what is your waste on there, guys, because you can do all those beautiful accurate saw cuts and then you put two the same together and it's like, no.
This one's the middle side.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to give you some sawing strategies and then some sawing and chiseling strategies, and then you're away for a busy afternoon to just knock over these activities. What I'm doing here, guys, so you can finish off the last bit of marking. So I've jumped back to the dovetail, but you'll note we've got similar sort of cuts. That's why I've just joined these two together. So what I've done is I've put it in the vise so I can see down this line and down this line at the same time. So we want to come on the waist side of the line and we can start on that corner. So I'm happy with this. These tenon saws are actually pretty good in here. So what you're going to do is I'm going to start that saw cut. I'm going to send it down that line, and then we're going to send it down that line. So you basically alternate, send it down that line, you alternate between those lines. So it's a lot better than trying to do it right across. You'll find it'll be a lot more accurate. So nice long strokes of the saw. So I'm going to take that down to the line there. I'm going to run it across. So once you've gone from point to point, I'm going to take it out of the vise. We're going to spin it around. And what you'll find is now, guys, that your cut along the end grain's established and your saw will want to go in there. So all you have to do is just try and concentrate down that one. So offer it down there and then offer it across. Offer it down there, offer it across. Till I'm from point to point, and I'm just going to put it vertical. Joint saw just wants to drop, and now you don't have any worries about stepping out of that line. You just let that saw drop. It might be a little bit high in the vise there. I might drop it down next time. I'm keeping an eye on that line. There. So I'm going to grab a bench hook, which is pretty straightforward. So again, waist side of the line. If you're not confident, then we've got a couple of strategies to get exactly to that line. So you'll have a little bit of waste in the corners that you can just trim out. Okay, so now we're going to cut the actual dovetail shape. So the critical cut with this one, guys, and the reason we've marked a square line across there, it's got to be nice and square across that distance there. The reason it's got to be nice and square there is because when we draw around our shape, if it's out of square, when it goes down to that level point, you might create a different shape on there. Okay, so our saw wants to drop 90 degrees, doesn't it? So I've just put that in the vise on an angle, and I'm just roughly sighting. So rather than try and cut on an angle, I've just tipped my work over there, because that saw just wants to drop straight down. So you see that cut, just nice and in line. So we tip it one way, and again you can probably do the similar thing. So just offer it down there, take it across your square line at the top. You'll find it's a lot easier to cut because it's nice and thin. So it's probably a good idea to come in like that rather than like that, because you might go off this line here. So I can get nice and low, get that line down, and I'm just going to knock it over. It doesn't have to be exactly square there. I'm just illustrating the point that these saws just want to go down. So you've got to let gravity help you out. So once it's at that position, guys, we can bring it in to the vise. So we want this shoulder line and this shoulder line nice and flush. Okay, so using the saw up against that other cut, using that other cut as a bit of a guide, we can push it against there